Hi guys, and welcome to Plugged In with Spike Leo. This is our guest today, Rob Johnson. Rob, how you doing, my man?
Good, bro. How are ya?
I'm very well. All right, so this is our first interview for the series Plugged In. We're really happy to have you on the show.
Thanks.
We're going to be asking a whole bunch of questions. And I'm going to start with, how long have you been making music, and who or what first inspired you to start?
Okay, so depends on what kind of making music you're talking about. I mean, I've been singing since I was 5 years old. I can remember the very first time I actually felt like I was singing, and that was at 5 years old.
Sure.
But at the age of 11, I was a songwriter. I'd won my first award for a song I wrote in intermediate. And
what was the award?
Well, it was best song. Yeah. So that for me was kind of like a staple moment where I felt like maybe I should continue. But I'd been in the entertainment industry for a long time before then, but I kind of went through the phases of musicality where I was more in the dance world.
Yep.
From a very young age, and I sort of just felt myself progressing through the different stages of musicality. It kind of started as a very body thing, and then became a voice thing. Then it became a thought thing, you know, and I felt like from a very young age I had a lot to say. So it was very natural for me to kind of put pen to paper and start saying things.
Sure. And are your parents musical, or like did they put you into it, or how did it all start?
No. My father is a singer. My mother is not. But they were, I guess, you know, they were financially supportive of me doing these things, which was just kind of allowed me to do what I want in that respect, because I just wanted to do it on my own. They never ever really were like, we want you to be a musician. My father, who even was a singer, was never especially like, you need to sing or be a singer. It wasn't like that at all. Sure. But he happened to actually be a singer, which is kind of interesting, I guess.
Yeah, very nice, man. Yeah. All right, so I was asking someone for a list of certain questions about what you would potentially want to ask Rob Johnson, and one of the questions I got was, how is it to be on these competitive TV shows, and how do you think it could benefit up and coming artists? So there's a lot of people who are really for it, and some people who are really against it, and obviously I know that you've been on a few of these shows.
In fact, I've been on all of them.
So which ones have you been on?
All of them. Oh, well, I've been on Idol. So when I was really young, just fresh out of high school, I did New Zealand Idol. Sure. And I came, I won't talk about where I came.
That's all right.
I came 7th. It was really good.
Great.
It was a good moment. It was great to be that young and just literally fresh off television, and you know, we became some of the most recognizable faces in the country for that time, and it was the first series. So for me, that was it really set me up. In hindsight, there was a period, I think all people who get into the top 10 or top 12 go through where they're like, oh, fuck this is bullshit. And then in hindsight, I kind of really managed to sort of use that over a long period of time to sort of build a career, and people still recognize me from even that show. Sure. In Australia now. So there's nothing that I can in hindsight say that it was really bad. In fact, it was actually kind of an amazing experience, and they can't, you know, they're so rare. You know, to be able to get into the top 12 from, like, I mean, those shows used to have heaps of people entering them.
Yeah, I remember.
The numbers are not
outside, there were thousands of people.
That's right, and the numbers are so low now in comparison. I think, you know, we had like New Zealand Idol was 80,000 contestants, like applicants. Wow. Whereas now it's not that, but it's a lot. I think probably a lot more cutthroat now, and the game's way different. In terms of being for or against it, you know, as I got older, I started to get real jobs, and I ended up working in digital marketing, and I still am affiliated with one. So I really, you know, when I was on Idol or fresh out of high school, digital marketing was not really around. Sure. You know, if I'd have known that something like that was going to exist the way it does now, I would have surely studied it. But it didn't exist. So as I kind of went along, I realized that what you're doing when you're going on these TV shows, regardless of where you get to or your position, you're just building fans. You're just scooping people in. Like, people will like you if you make it into the top 40. Like, there are people that are making it into the top 40 that are getting deals, that are getting work.
Yeah.
It is literally a numbers game. Just get your fucking face out there.
And there's lots of eyes on there scouting for talent.
100%. You know, some people might not even care how great a vocalist you are. If they like your shoes, or if they like the way you wore those shoes, or if they like you for any particular minute reason, they will give you opportunities.
And I think in turn also, like, you know, with YouTube and all these different social platforms where you're able to basically get exposure for free. I mean, it's certainly over flooded now. There's so much out there, so it's hard to really know what to watch or when to watch it, unless something of course goes viral. But I mean, with the TV shows at least, you know, if you are getting to the top 10, 20, 30 or 40, I mean, there's millions of people who are still turning on those TVs and watching those episodes. So
100%. And that was all I really aimed for. I wouldn't have done The Voice as a third try for a television show. They'd been asking me for a few years, and I'd always been like, I couldn't do it, or I was tossing up whether I should or not. And then it just came to a position where I was like, wow, actually this is just a great way to build traction, get experience, meet some amazing people, and at the end of the day, just do what I love, which is to sing, you know, and perform. So when I'd really thought about it, it was a great idea, and it was I have no regrets about doing that at all. I everything I wanted to happen and I went into that show hoping for has happened, and so much more.
Fantastic. And at what stage do you think you should go onto these shows? Like, if I'm up and coming artist, at what point do you think I go, you know what, I'm ready to get some exposure? Or, I mean, is it just a confidence thing? Is it believing in yourself? Or should you just give it a shot?
I think you should just go, if you feel deeply and viscerally that you want to do it because it's a challenge you might like to stretch yourself toward, then you should do it. I think if you're, you know, there's a lot of angles you can look at it. Like, for me personally, the show is so much more than what you see on TV. It is really a game. It's a competitive game, and the music is such a small aspect of it. Like, I really had to, for lack of a better term, like, really hustle my way, because they look at you so deeply. Like, they're going through the history of who you are as an artist. They're going through, you know, what you believe, you know, who you are as a person. There are people that are, like, really high up in the music game, like, looking at you like God, you know, and like, oh, who is he at the core of his soul, and what does he represent, and how do we place him in a market? Or, you know, it's so much more than just picking a song and getting up there and singing it. Like, it's no coincidence that all the top 12 are, like, so different, you know. And to me personally, I don't think it's any coincidence that each judge or coach, as we're only allowed to call them, had a specific artist in the final. You know, these sorts of things are not an accident.
Sure. Yeah. I gather all those people that were part of the finalists are, like, quite comfortable with themselves, have got, like you said, you know, personalities that really kind of shine out. I'm assuming, like, you know, the journey of an artist takes a long time, and there needs to be a point where you're kind of comfortable and really know who you are and what you represent as an artist. I would imagine, before potentially having a really good shot of getting in the top 10, 20 on a show like that.
I think having something to say definitely helps, but I mean, that's just not just good for TV. That's just, as an artist, having something to say is kind of really going to end up being the bread and butter behind your music. I personally believe there's obviously there might be some music out there that isn't really like that, and that works for sales, but it's not always about that, I think. And also, I guess, appearing to be at least very comfortable with your music. A lot of artists are not very comfortable, you know, in general. I think, you know, we tend to be quite recluse sometimes, or feel very deeply, and, like, if you look at some of the other artists on the show alongside myself, I think there were some that weren't necessarily very comfortable with themselves, but very comfortable with the music, and that's kind of almost beautiful to watch, because it's like, oh, this music is freeing this person from that to
express themselves once they get on stage.
And that works really, that translates really well.
I'd love to talk to you a little bit about the music process. So I wanted to ask you, how do you get started when crafting a new piece of music, and how do you know when something is finished and ready to be shared?
Well, you can probably testify to the fact that my process is quite interesting, maybe a little bit unconventional.
Sure.
Look, I think that for me, it's very much, it can take me like that in a moment. I can feel something really deeply. I talk to myself a lot, so I'm always having some kind of internal dialogue, and my personality type is has a facet of something called audio digital, where I tend to have an inner dialogue quite consistently. So I'm always absorbing the world, I think, in a way that's got kind of like an artistic filter. Mm-hmm. Like I could literally be at any moment of the day presented with an idea that just sort of comes to me, and I'll take it through from real life, and it will go into my phone in some form. Maybe like I'll put a voice note down. It can just be the smallest idea. It could just be a feeling, you know, a noise, a sound, a concept. I try to start with moods and emotions, and then I just keep fleshing it out throughout my week, or it doesn't have to take a week, it could take an hour.
Sure.
But it really all starts with this.
Now, it's not a loaded question, but do you think there should be a timeline or because Rob and I are working together, just if you're not aware. The question
Don't tell them that.
Well, you kind of hinted that maybe...
Yeah.
Well, so when do you know it's finished?
It's never finished.
It's never finished.
It's never finished. I think that there are pieces that I've started many, many years ago that, you know, like just conceptually, that I might bring to a place of fruition where I feel comfortable to show people.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, I'm sure you know that we could keep going.
So when do you let go?
You let go when you feel like, yeah, this is the shit. This is dope.
It's been cooked.
It's been cooked. I need to show people because it's lit.
I agree. I mean, it could never be finished.
Could never be finished.
I could work on it forever.
Yeah, you can. Because technology is always progressing. There's always things you can do to it. The process isn't designed to be finished.
Yeah.
You know, art is never finished.
And music is so subjective that you don't know... You know,
why would you want it to be finished?
Yeah, I think there's a thing where like it's important to be attached to the music you're doing, but not to get possessive and overly attached. I think you need to make sure that we all need to make sure that we move on to the next song and keep.
100%. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not a struggle.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, completing a project has been probably, and I would say, is probably a lot of people's biggest challenge in making art, because you don't know when it's done.
Sure.
But that's kind of a beautiful duality
at
the same time, because it allows us to have a journey that's very separate from what we're showing people. You know, the viewers sort of get the sense of infinity in what we're saying and what we're doing, but we're having our own kind of separate journey creating it, and then the audience are having a journey sort of absorbing it. And I feel, though, you know, we have to have our own sense of entertainment in that process. And it's a beautiful gift. Like,
definitely.
To be able to experience.
So based on that, you know, whether it's a gift or whether it's a pursuit of passion, do you think anyone with the right passion for what they create can make a career out of it, or are there other factors involved?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that these days with, you know, the right tools or even just the right mindset, you can sell something that's very simple. And I think persistence is the key. Continuity is the key. Mm-hmm. Just getting back up is the key, you know, and just being really consistent.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think everyone can make a career out of it.
So, I mean,
there'll always be a way to do that.
Yeah, when you talk about persistency and discipline, I mean, how do you get yourself in a state of mind where you know, on your down days you keep pushing through? Do you have a routine or a ritual that you follow in order to keep yourself inspired to keep going? Because the music industry, we know, is extremely difficult. You're dealing with rejection, feedback. I mean, you have to be really comfortable within yourself to not give a shit what anyone thinks. So how do you keep yourself, again with the question, disciplined? Is there a ritual or a routine?
Well, look, I think I mean, I do definitely think discipline is a muscle that you can flex and grow. Inspiration, that's a bit different. I think that being able to turn inspiration on and off, as you know, is like that. I don't know how much you can learn that. I don't know if I want to say that you can or can't, but consistency is definitely something you can build. And just, I guess, finding a deeper sense of purpose in what you do.
Yep.
If you can find that deepest sense of purpose and at least feel that deeper sense of purpose in what you do, it's really not going to be hard for you to get up and do it daily. And if you feel like what you're saying has purpose and has a reason to be heard, or adds value to what you're giving to the world as an artist, getting up every day is actually quite easy to do it.
Sure.
And getting back up is easy to do it.
I like how you're talking about inspiration and the challenge. I've always spoken a lot about the idea of inspiration.
Yeah.
And at first, I wasn't able to create or write a piece of music without finding inspiration. It might have been an emotional pull from the news that I watch, or something that's happening over the world that really has an emotional pull on me as an artist. But yeah, where do you, like, is there a point where you can actually inspire yourself, where you don't need to find the inspiration to write, where you do kind of learn to go, you know where to search is maybe the right thing to say?
I think knowing where to find inspiration is probably a good skill to have, and there is no shortage of it. You know, like, you only have to turn on the television. You know, my friends are some pretty good inspirations. They've got some interesting stories, and I try to sort of take on board what they're going through and interpret my thoughts and feelings about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've no shortage of inspiration. It's there. You just have to feel it. You have to be conscious and willing to absorb your surroundings at a deep level.
So what are 3 main tips or advice you would give to musicians or producers, up-and-coming artists who are looking to start crafting a career and building an audience? 3 quick tips that you would give them.
Ooh, looking to start a career and building an audience, I would say be original. Start a journey of finding out who you most likely believe you are, and let that be your framework. 3 quick tips. That's a big one though. That's kind of like, that's a life journey. But that what I'm doing there is kind of setting you up to have an experience, because we as artists so willingly just give ourselves away to everyone.
Sure.
And that can be very taxing. And I feel like what I would encourage someone who is perhaps hiring me as a performance coach is to enjoy their process, because there are going to be times where everyone is demanding so much of you and asking so much of you that you kind of forget that you're there, and you're like, shit, where am I in this? And I just, for a young person, I just wished someone had given that to me.
Definitely.
Because I came out of high school, was straight into the mainstream, like high-end entertainment industry, and you just become a bit of a commodity.
Yeah.
And I was like a teenager.
Sure.
And no one was telling me to remember me.
Yeah.
You know, I fucked off. I left home. I moved to the big city. No one could tell me nothing. And I just wished that I would have had someone that would have been like, don't forget that you're in this with yourself.
Sure.
Yeah. And so that's 1. Do you still want 2 more?
You can give me 2 more.
I would say focus on honing your craft, like your craft. Don't look sideways. Don't give a shit about what anyone else wants or what radio wants for you. That frustrates the hell out of me. I encounter that so much. It's like the people I looked up to or look up to, and especially the people that I love more than anything now, are so not trying to please anyone.
Who are some of those people that you look up to?
James Blake.
Yep.
Is a big one. He's reshaped everything about the way I think about music. I would say The Weeknd, Miguel, Beyonce, for completely different reasons.
Sure.
I still feel that, especially even now, she's really doing what she wants more than ever.
Yeah, an amazing discipline and work ethic.
Oh, she's
next level.
She's like a ninja.
Sure.
You know, she's just got the focus. She can probably fly.
Most probably. And there was I saw an interview recently with Quincy Jones and Khalid, this new up-and-coming 19-year-old artist. And one of the things he said at the end, advice to the 19-year-old artist, was shut the fuck up and listen and learn. So how do you feel about that? How is that valid?
Yeah, it's always valid. I think silence is definitely the key to growth, externally and internally. If you can listen to yourself from a silent place, you're going to learn a lot about yourself. That's kind of part of that journey I was speaking of, and finding who you are. It's just like listening to yourself, you know?
Sure.
And yeah, definitely I think there's different levels of shut the fuck up as well. Like, I'm sure that there are people that Quincy Jones would shut the fuck up around and listen to, and then you kind of know where you are in that process. But yeah, it's good advice.
Yeah. I really liked it as well.
Yeah.
I thought it was really valid. All right, so moving on. What mistakes have you made, if any? And what did you learn from those experiences, my man? Have you made any mistakes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have. I think some of the mistakes that I've made were probably not focusing on the foundation enough. I think little things like things that my mother told me when I was younger that I never thought would ever really matter in the bigger picture really do now.
Yeah.
Like waking up in the morning and making your bed.
Sure.
Okay, now that might sound really kind of basic on the surface, but what that actually does is creates an on-flow effect for the rest of my day.
Mm-hmm.
Because it tells my mind that I'm getting up and I'm doing the thing that's going to prepare me to come home and be comfortable.
Sure.
So everything between that and coming home is kind of, I've set a structure up for my day. So yeah, not doing that enough, just kind of rolling out of bed, you know, being on my phone for ages is, I think that's a mistake that I make a lot and I'm still doing.
So the idea of routine, I mean, that comes back to kind of routine and ritual, whether 100%. It's even something, making a bed or going to the gym.
Yeah.
For me, I like to light some incense before I start working, and that just kind of initiates the work
That's cool.
process.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And I just feel like, you know, having an artistic mind, there's kind of like a madness that goes on and there's sort of like a method to the madness, but things can be quite messy.
Sure.
So I think for me, just sort of not creating a very solid structure very early and sticking to it. In fact, when I was younger, I was actually quite structured, but it was kind of like after my high school years.
Yeah.
You know, when you get like really pissed every weekend for like a couple of years.
Yeah.
Maybe longer. You know, you kind of lose that routine. So a mistake would have been to kind of, for me, I felt would be having sort of let go of that routine.
Sure.
That was one. But it's okay, we're back. It's just become, you know, more important to me later on, I guess. I would say definitely, you know, secluding myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like being an artist, you want to be alone a lot.
Yep.
That's probably a bit of a mistake, I think. I think we should continue to be social.
So based on that, I want to ask you, how important is collaboration? How important is collaboration for you, and what have been some of the most unexpected or rewarding results you've encountered from working with other artists? Because you are saying how you do isolate yourself as not just as an artist, as any type of creative. We sit in a room by ourselves for long periods of time.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a limit to what you can learn.
Yeah. Look, to be honest with you, I love working with other artists. In fact, it's some of my most rewarding moments as an artist have been in my collaboration process. But all the collaborations I've done have literally always been friendships that I built, and the collaboration came organically from that.
Sure.
I never was like, oh, I want to work with you. Let's do that. You know, like
it's about networking, being a nice person.
Well, it was like, if you look at like when Will Singe and I did Shoulda Coulda Wouldas, I was living with him for 6 months because I needed somewhere to stay when I came into Australia, and so obviously we were going to make music together. He reached out to me when I was in New Zealand, but never really to do music together. He was doing his own kind of music at that stage.
Sure.
And I just really loved what he was doing, and he wanted to grow, and he liked the style that I was doing. So we would talk music, but we never really tried to make music necessarily so much until I decided I was going to move to Australia. It was like, yeah, let's do this. So we'd known each other for quite a while before that happened, and that ended up being a very rewarding process for me.
He's someone who's really utilised the social platform of YouTube to kind of make and build a following and an audience for himself.
Yes.
I mean, that is another kind of effective platform, would you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would actually almost say that he was probably, at least in Australasia, maybe one of the first people to really pull in that kind of traffic.
Sure. And how long was he building that kind of thing for?
I remember when he started, or you know, the day he made the decision, I was actually living with him at that stage to implement the strategy. So he and I had already talked about creating our own pieces for YouTube that were like artistic spins on hip hop and R&B. And I remember that was not long after I released my rendition of Marvin's Room cover, which is a Marvin's Room cover, and that went down quite well. So we, naturally it would have seemed like a good thing to do those kinds of spins, and he was just really able to take it to a video level and really tap into the algorithm of YouTube, which at the time I didn't really know much about.
Sure.
But he's got some really pretty clever friends who are very business minded. So, the music side of it is big, but the business side of what he's doing is
so it's all about the hustle important as well.
It's so about the hustle, so about information and again consistency. Like he's really consistent.
Yeah. I have a couple more questions for you, my man.
Yeah, right.
What advice can you give to anyone who is struggling to overcome rejection or get themselves out of a creative rut and reignite that fire?
Oh, that's a good question. Overcoming rejection. I think once you realize that rejection actually has nothing to do with you, it's kind of very easy to sort of be like, that's a you thing.
Sure.
And this is a me thing. Like, if you're rejecting me, you're rejecting me, but I'm not rejecting myself.
Yeah. So
you're welcome to reject me. It doesn't actually impact or affect how I see myself.
You kind of invite rejection.
Like, bring it on.
Bring it on.
These days, I'm like, no. Fort Knox, you can't touch this.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't even focus on it. I think a better way to deal with rejection is probably to focus on acceptance.
Sure.
Being grateful for just focusing on the people that are actually showing you acceptance instead of focusing on the rejection. Rejection will go away very quickly.
And like anything, I mean, the more you do it, the more rejection you deal with, just the easier it becomes.
Well, the more acceptance you focus on, the more acceptance and gratitude you'll have.
Yeah. And
the rejection will seem very small, because for every one person that is rejecting you or doesn't like you, there are an insurmountable amount more of people that will actually enjoy you.
Sure. Nice, man. Nice answer.
Yeah,
so, we're coming to the end of our interview. I have another question for you, and then I'm going to do I haven't even thought of a name for it yet, but it's going to be a minute of quick fire questions. So you're going to give me really, really quick answers, and you're going to give me a pass or a go. All right. So this is my last question. Then we're going to get on to that. So, the question is, what is the bigger picture for you, my man? What is the main goal?
Yeah, okay, that's a good question. My main goal now is to, I guess, be able to reach as many people as I possibly can with my music.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to spend all my time with my followers. I want to be able to travel the world and go meet them. I want to be able to say something that matters to me, that, if I'm lucky, potentially shifts the consciousness of how we perceive music and art. I want to encourage people to be able to accept themselves, to enjoy their journey, and ultimately feel peace. I want to connect with people. Connection, it's just literally all boils down to connection. So I want to connect with as many people as possible.
Sure.
Yeah.
Amazing. Good luck to you, my man.
Thank you. I feel like I'm glad to have you on the journey with me.
I'm very glad to be on the journey, and we'll create some great stuff, and then hopefully connect with whoever wants to connect with us.
Let's do it, G.